There is something the INFJ rarely speaks about. Not the loneliness, not the gifts, not even the uncanny sense of seeing around corners that everyone around them seems to miss. What the INFJ rarely speaks about is the fact that they are not the same person they were 12 months ago. Not just changed, but shifted at the level of the archetype, at the level of what they are actually here to do. And most of them don't have a name for that yet. Most INFJ content will tell you you're rare, gifted, sensitive in ways the world doesn't understand, and that is true. But it is not enough, because a gift unnamed is a gift uncontrolled, and an archetype that has shifted without the INFJ knowing it. That is a person still operating from the old map, still responding to the old wound, still using strategies that belong to who they were, not who they are becoming. That gap between the archetype you used to be and the one that is emerging now is where most ENFJs get stuck. Not because they're weak, because they're unnamed. So today, I want to give you a map for that shift. What I'm calling the Sigma INFJ Archetype Progression, a classification of the distinct stages an INFJ moves through as they integrate their psychological depth, not a tier list, not a ranking of worth. Think of it more like an initiatory hierarchy, the kind ancient traditions understood, and modern psychology is only now beginning to name. Each level has a different psychological signature, different strengths, different shadow expressions, different relationship with power, with silence, with the world's relentless demand to be understood. And crucially, each shift between levels is triggered by something specific, a threshold, a breaking, a particular kind of loss or illumination. Understanding where you are in this progression doesn't just tell you who you are, it tells you what comes next. The Veiled Seer sees everything and trusts none of it. They have the perception, the depth, the uncanny accuracy about people and situations that makes them extraordinary. But the gift is turned inward, kept private, hidden behind careful performance. The Veiled Seer has learned, usually through early experience, that being fully seen is dangerous. That truth, when offered too directly, costs them something. So they adapt. They read the room. They give people what's needed. They become fluent in the language of other people's comfort. The shadow of the Veiled Seer is this: they become so skilled at invisibility that they lose the thread of their own signal. They stop trusting their own perception because they've never been permitted to act from it without consequence. This is the most populated stage, and the most misunderstood, because the Veiled Seer often looks, from the outside, like they have everything together. Something breaks. It always does at this stage. A relationship that costs too much. A betrayal that confirms the seer's worst fear about being seen. A moment where the world's indifference to their depth becomes undeniable. The wounded oracle has experienced a specific kind of loss, and they are in the process of deciding what to do with it. The gift of this stage is clarity. The wound strips away what was decorative and leaves only what is essential. The wounded oracle often produces their most powerful work, their most precise insight, their most authentic relationships here, in this rupture. The shadow is the seduction of the wound, the way suffering can become identity. The wounded oracle who does not move through this stage becomes the INFJ, who speaks only from pain, who mistakes depth of feeling for depth of integration. The test of this archetype: can you carry the wound without becoming it? The silent architect has stopped explaining themselves, not out of arrogance, out of economy. They have learned that most of what they see cannot be transmitted in real time to people who have not done the corresponding inner work, so they build instead systems, frameworks, environments. The silent architect creates structures that carry the insight without requiring constant translation. Their work does the talking. The gift here is formidable. This is the INFJ operating at genuine effectiveness, where their vision has found a container strong enough to hold it. That container serves others without depleting the architect in the process. The shadow is isolation. The silent architect can become so self-contained that they lose access to the relational depth that is ultimately their true source. They build beautifully, and they build alone. The test: does your architecture include a door? Can others enter what you have made? The initiated guide has been through the descent. They know the territory of the wounded oracle not from observation, but from having lived it, and they have come back. This is what sets the initiated guide apart from the well-meaning INFJ who offers insight from safety. They speak from the other side of something. And the people who need that guidance can feel the difference. The psychological profile here is distinct. The initiated guide no longer needs the wound to validate their authority. They are not speaking from pain. They are speaking from an integration perspective which is more demanding and more useful. The gift, they can accompany others into darkness without losing themselves. They are not frightened by the depth of another person's suffering because they have charted that depth in themselves. The shadow is messianism. The initiated guide who has not fully reckoned with their own ego begins to mistake service for identity. They need to be the guide. They need the other person to need them. The question at this stage is not whether you can lead, it is whether you can step back. The living myth does not perform depth, they embody it. This is the INFJ whose presence makes a difference. Not because they are trying to, because what they have integrated has become structural, woven into the way they move through the world, the questions they ask, the spaces they hold. The living myth is not necessarily the most articulate or the most visible. They may operate quietly and privately, leaving almost no public trace. What characterizes them is not output but frequency, a particular quality of being that others experience as an encounter rather than an interaction. The shadow at this stage is the most subtle, the belief that the work is complete, that integration is a destination. It is not. The living myth who ceases to be a student of their own interior begins, slowly, to calcify. The myth becomes a monument. The work at this level is perpetual return, descent and return, descent and return, not because the seer is broken, but because that is the nature of the archetype itself. So, where are you in this? Because here is what most INFJs notice somewhere in this mapping, that the archetype they most identified with 12 months ago is not where they are now. They have moved, often without naming the movement, often while still trying to solve the problems of the previous stage, still apologizing for the Veiled Seer's silence, still explaining the wounded oracle's pain, still justifying the silent architect's withdrawal. The shift is real, and it is disorienting precisely because there is no ceremony for it in ordinary life. No one hands you a new name when you cross a psychological threshold. The world mostly asks you to stay legible, to remain who they understood you to be. But the archetype moves anyway, and the gap between where you are and who you're still pretending to be is where the friction lives. This video is in some sense a ceremony, a naming, not to fix you, to locate you. You are not who you were, and that is not a loss, that is the whole point. Knowing which archetype is running your life right now is not a verdict, it is a map. And maps exist, so you know where to go next. The archetypes at the earlier stages are not lesser. They are earlier in the process of becoming what you were always meant to be. The Veiled Seer is not a failure. She is the beginning. The wounded oracle is not broken. He is at the threshold. The hierarchy exists to show you direction, not distance. If this framework recognized something in you that you hadn't named before, you already know where you are. The question is what you do from here. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.